You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
It's Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones. We only have 4 more preseason games to go, and then the regular season will be underway, saying goodbye to that long off season. Sheldon, I want to ask you, have you ever been to a concert that pleasantly surprised you? Maybe you weren't expecting to have a bad time, but you weren't expecting to have as good of a time as you did.
Yeah, definitely. It was Pink. I went to see Pink in Fargo, and I love Pink. I love her, but I didn't expect to love the show as much as I did because the show was crazy. And I know you get to go see her day before Labor Day coming up here, so you're in for a hell of a show because she flies all over the place, hits all the hits.
I've seen videos.
It's awesome.
It looks crazy, man.
Yeah.
I went to Sean Desmond on Saturday. Apparently the story is that Drake talked him into getting back into music, and he's been filling, venues across Canada. I wish I had that guy's dance moves, man.
Yeah.
I
remember watching him on Much Music.
Yeah, back to the Much Music days, man. That was my routine when I'd get home from high school, watching the countdowns on Much. So hey, if he's coming to your town, I'd say go check it out. It's a darn good time. I went with my wife and my sister-in-law. I was certainly outnumbered. I remember I got to the door, and the security guard's like, "Hey, bud." Yeah.
I can relate. Relate when I went to see Backstreet Boys with my sister and Tammy and a bunch of females. But again, that's another one that surprised me because they put on a heck of a show.
Nice. We did get some sad news in the CFL world. We learned that Eric Upton has passed away at 71 years old. He's one of the 5 in a row Grey Cup champs. With Edmonton there. He was an offensive lineman and actually went to the Elks and Riders game over the weekend. They had number 57 on the field, and just anybody that talked about Eric Upton just had glowing words to say about him. So a tough loss for the CFL world and also the Edmonton football world. It just seems like we always are having bad news lately, and that is another tough one. We'll talk about this. The CFL has unveiled their full American television broadcast schedule for 2024. There's going to be 34 regular season CFL contests on the CBS Sports Network, and most of the weekend stuff during the summer. They're going to be able to watch Thanksgiving games, Labor Day games, and the playoffs, and the 111th Grey Cup. Looks like those are going to be available on CFL Plus. So it does seem like the access is pretty good south of the border. And if I look at the analytics on our YouTube channel, there is a lot of American friends hungry for football content and hungry for CFL content. So it's good to see that they have access to the game down there, Sheldon.
Yeah, absolutely. The more eyes you can get on the product. Once the UFL is done, and there's that lull in between when the NFL starts up. So anyone who's starved for football, if they gave the CFL a shot, you would think they'd just become fans because of how exciting it is. So hopefully the CFL can get a lot more fans this way.
Now, Weston Dressler made an appearance recently on the Waggle podcast. I didn't know that this was a thing. Like, I didn't know that you decide to go into the Hall of Fame wearing one team's hat over another. But he was asked that, and it kind of made some headlines because he said he was undecided whether he wants to represent the Bombers or the Riders. And on one hand, I can kind of see it. Probably thought he had a lot left to give in green and white and was let go by the team. And he went to Winnipeg and still had more productive seasons. But then on the other hand, man, that's where the championship was won, and then that's where you had the best numbers in your career. I don't know. Do you think he's still a little bit upset about how things ended in Sask?
Well, clearly, I would think so. If he's going to be saying that stuff, I also think this is much ado about nothing too. I kind of got triggered into it too about getting all upset about this, but it's not like the MLB Hall of Fame where they're wearing a hat that actually has a logo on it. So I don't think it really matters. But Yeah, like I think it was just a bad situation in Saskatchewan because the previous GM, he signed a bunch of players to big contracts because he went all in on winning the Grey Cup in 2013, and you know what? It was worth it because we won the Grey Cup in 2013. But then when it comes time to a new guy coming in town and seeing all these contracts, if the players didn't want to renegotiate, then you had no choice but to cut them. And a lot of good players were shown the door. And a lot of Rider fans hold that against a certain person. But I think there's more than Chris Jones to blame for this. But that's old news, I guess. But I just hope Weston can get over if he does have some sour grapes about here because I think he's been back since he's retired. So it's not like it took Darian until this last season to actually come back. But now
Yeah.
Darian's involved in the game day production on CKRM, so that's a good sign. I just hope that these fences can be mended if there is still this little bit of a rift that it seems there is.
On the other hand, I can kind of see it from a player point of view when maybe somebody thinks you're done or cuts you loose or doesn't pay you what you
Yeah.
think you're worth. Like it happened, I think, with Charleston Hughes, who ended up having some productive years after leaving Calgary. And Andrew Harris ended up winning a Grey Cup after leaving Toronto, even though maybe he didn't have the same production during the regular season. It's all about winning championships, man. And he was a part of the
Yeah.
championship team. And hey, he went back and retired, signed a one-day contract and retired with his hometown team, a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. So I think if that one can be fixed, I think we could fix really anything.
We've even seen it this year where Jackson Jeffcoat didn't think that he was going to get as much money as he thought he should, so he just decided to retire. So this does happen still to this day.
And that's interesting you bring out Jeffcoat because I don't know if you saw on X, Manny Arsenault saying after watching preseason action, he thinks he can help out some teams. So I don't know. Can we really rule out any of these guys? We thought Sean Lemon was retired, so I don't know. I don't think retirement really means much.
It's got to be tough to walk away, especially when you know it's not an injury or it's not you had a terrible season or something like that. So I think especially with players like Tom Brady and other players who are playing longer, and I think it's just with modern advancement in science and health and wellness, we can get more out of our human bodies. And so I think there's a lot of players who still feel they can make an impact, still want to make that money, and I think just the grind itself is hard to get out of. You hear players talking about in the past where it's not a good transition because they're not around the guys as much. They have to go back to just full time family life or whatever. So I can completely understand why these players don't want to walk away.
There were 4 preseason games over the weekend. The Ottawa Red Blacks getting a 31-22 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Big takeaways from the game, man. It was good to see Devontae Dedmon. He's clearly healthy. He has a 91-yard punt return touchdown. And hey, there were actually some pretty exciting plays happening over the weekend in these preseason games. I attended one, the Riders and the Elks, and well, maybe it wasn't the cleanest football. It sure was entertaining. And hey, if you're going to go to the stadium, you want to be entertained. What else can you ask for? I feel like I maybe have a new name in the CFL, a part of the Ottawa Red Blacks. Let's pull him up on the sheet here. I believe his name, yes, it's Khalil Pimpleton. That is my new name in the CFL. He had like a 28-yard kick return, so I don't know. Maybe he'll stick with Ottawa. Dustin Crum looked all right. He ended up getting some work here. 10 of 16, 108 yards, a touchdown. He had 27 yards rushing and a touchdown as well. So he's getting some valuable work there, but I do wonder if that running back battle is still alive in Ottawa. Raquel Armstead had 7 carries, but only 18 yards, so just over 2.5 yards a carry there. Ronnie Brown had a little bit better of an average. He had 6 carries for 31 yards, but Armstead did get the touchdown, so maybe there's going to be the battle coming down right to the end there. Bo Levi Mitchell, Sheldon, how did you think he looked from what you saw?
He looked okay. Certainly didn't look like the quarterback that showed up to training camp in a walking boot, that's for sure. Like, it looked like he was slinging it. He didn't seem to be worried about his leg at all. Got a touchdown, 4 out of 4 to Tim White. He had a good little segment of the game, I guess.
And the Ticats, interestingly, signed David Menard, the Canadian defensive lineman that was released by BC recently. Menard has a motor. Well, we've seen him get close to double-digit sacks in a rotational role, so I'm happy to see him back with the team, and he is with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The Riders beat the Elks 28-27. Look, if it weren't for punts, the Riders probably handily lose this game. The Elks, they even had a punt returner fumble the same punt twice, so...
Yeah.
The best play that the Riders had was punting the ball in this game, but hey, it counted on the scoreboard.
Yeah. A game, I don't know why, but it seems that Rider and Elks games in Edmonton are always sloppy. I don't know why. It just seems like there's never a clear beating from one to the other. It just seems like it goes right down to the wire, and then it's usually a mistake that costs the team the win. But I saw some good things. I saw Shea Patterson. I think he did a good job of making it seem like he should be the backup. He had that one fumble, but then he didn't quit on the play. He got up and recovered his own fumble, and I think that's got to show Corey Mason and some of the other coaches there, like just the drive that he didn't give up on the play. He didn't say, "Oh crap, fumble," but he got up and he got it back. There's a lot of positions where there's going to be some hard choices for Corey Mason, Jeremy O'Day to figure out, like receiver. I think backup running back or running back number 2, I think between Rakovic and Hickston. I think I like Rakovic better. He'll be a little cheaper, younger. But like I said, sloppy, fun, exciting game.
Do you think Mason Fine? I mean... 9 of 11, 75 yards. They were all short passes. There was the touchdown there. I mean, is it going to be... Are they going to let Pipkin go? I mean, they've got some decisions there, too.
I just think we've seen what Fine can do, and he's not going out there and taking the job. I think he's just doing what he's been doing this whole time. I think... It's just time for a change, to be honest, in the backup quarterback position. And we've already seen what Mason can do when he's a starter, because he had to start some games last year. And they ended up, benching him in favor of Jake Dolegala, who they then decided not to re-sign. So I think for Mason Fine to make this team, he would have had to have an excellent training camp. And I just, from the reports that I'm hearing, I don't think it's been excellent. It's been serviceable. And then as far as Pipkin goes, I honestly, he didn't do anything for me to want to keep him either. And so I'd kind of rather go with Jake Cohn as that third string quarterback. He can learn, maybe do short yardage, but at the same time, Shea Patterson has done short yardage, and he's a big guy, and he seems fired up, like he's ready to play.
As far as the Elks go, McLeod Bethel Thompson did get quite a bit of time, like the whole first half, 17-25 with an interception, although the interception was actually quite bizarre. I thought Gino made the catch, and then he kind of goes down with the ball, and the ball ends up in the air in Ryder hands, so that one's not on McLeod at all. No. And then Trey Ford got some time in the second half, and I actually think he's already shown growth from last year. He 12 of 14, 121 yards. He did stay in the pocket for the most part. He had 2 rushes for 20 yards, but I think that is the growth that you want to see from year to year. Maybe he does have time to go, but he looked like a very confident passer to me. And there was one throw that he made in the end zone that the DB kind of breaks up the pass at the end of the play, but he made it on the run and made an incredible throw. So if they're able to get him to stick around in Edmonton which I still think that's a bit of a question, then maybe they're doing pretty good here. And maybe having McLeod kind of teach him a little bit is the good move for the Elks. It's clear that McLeod Bethel-Thompson has chemistry with Curly Gittins Jr., looked his way a few times. And also, I think him and Geno Lewis is going to be quite the connection to start the season. But these two teams play again in a couple weeks. And hey, when the game counts, it's just even going to be that much more fun, I think. Calgary hosted BC, winning 30-6. Now, there was a bit of a weather delay in this one. I don't think BC started any starters in this one, which is, I mean, par for the course, I guess. Dakota Prukop goes 4 of 9, 56 yards, and he has since been released, actually. And actually, Taquan Mizell has been released by the Lions as well. So it's definitely William Stanback's team. There's no question about that. And hey, maybe Jake Dolegala is the number 2, or Chase Bryce with the Lions, who went 10 of 16, 128 yards in this one. But the BC Lions news I want to talk, Sheldon Jones, is who's playing their home opener. They had One Republic do it a couple of years ago. Last year was LL Cool J. This year, another hip-hop legend, man.
50 Cent.
Isn't that cool?
I'm extremely jealous because we're going to get Jess Moskaleuk and Trooper again. That's what we get in Ryderville. But, you know, Amar Doman, he again knocked it out of the park because 50's the kind of guy who, like, people our age and even older are going to be into, and, you know, hopefully bring their kids so their kids can enjoy the game and become fans for life while they get to go see one of their hip hop legends that they grew up listening to, like 50 Cent. It's going to be awesome.
Jake Mayer went 7 of 12. He had a touchdown pass to Mark and Michelle here. Matthew Schultz, 11 of 15. He goes in this one. I thought that the interesting news, man, and actually a couple Stamps receivers, once the weather delay happened, Dickinson just said, well, you guys can kind of sit out the rest of the game. So a guy like Malik Henry didn't even really get onto the field here. But one that stands out to me is they didn't really give Dedrick Mills the ball. And I don't know what's going on there. I know it's the preseason. I know there's nothing to be worried about. But there was an interesting quote from Dave Dickinson. And Danny Austin ended up kind of putting this on X, saying, I probably don't need to get into it, but Dedrick and I had a conversation. We're going to clean a few things up, and for the most part, I know he's still a guy I want to be the starter, but I do feel for him, and we just had a little understanding that he was going to have to watch this one. Don't know what that means, if it means anything, but yeah. Levante Bellamy got into the game, carrying the ball for the Stampeders, and he might be an option at backup running back for that team. They just have a lot of options there. He had 5.7 yards per carry, 6 carries, 34 yards. Is this news or noise about Dedrick Mills, Sheldon Jones?
It could be both. It could be a way of, you know, Dave wanting to motivate him maybe a little bit. Because I don't know why you would even share that with anyone in the media, because it's very easy to not. A lot of players just don't play or don't get very many touches in preseason. Yeah. Like in Saskatchewan, Mario Alford didn't play in either game, and there's some people who are saying that he's on the hot seat, which I don't understand because
really.
Mario Alford. A lot of people in Saskatchewan are thinking that he's because of some of the success of some of those receivers that we had. So, wow. But again, back to Calgary, I think Mills is good. I don't know why he would need to be extra motivated. Maybe something's happened in camp that Dave felt the need to light a fire under his butt, but who knows? I hope he has a good week.
Yeah.
Let's just say that, because I We'll talk about that later.
Montreal ended up beating Toronto 30-13. That's the last preseason match that we're going to talk about here. Kevin Mattel got a few catches, the rookie out of Laval for the Argos, so it's nice to see that. Cameron Dukes goes 4 for 6 for a touchdown and an interception. Brian Scott gets in there, and also Nick Arbuckle. I gotta say, man, he didn't even expect to be back in the CFL, and so far, maybe it's because he's so familiar with Ryan Dinwiddie and how he runs an offense. He seems to be fitting back in there and having some nice success early on in Argos camp. I'm rooting for the guy. He had a rough go in Ottawa and in Edmonton, I think. Maybe he didn't deserve the hype coming out of Calgary, but how many times have we seen that when maybe there's a backup quarterback out of Calgary everybody's excited about? Even Edmonton, James Franklin, anybody? And things kind of go down the toilet. The highlight of, is it the Devontae Dedmon return, or is it the Caleb Evans touchdown? That's pretty wild.
As far as a play, it's the return, but as far as just outstanding, breaking when a play breaks down and just getting, it reminded me of Darian Durant's touchdown against Montreal way back in the day. Just scattering around, and then you find the guy in the end zone, and it very entertaining play.
We talked to Tim Capper to preview the Montreal Alouettes on our YouTube channel, and he was talking about the quarterback room, and I think Joey Alfieri out of Montreal kind of made the claim that maybe they have maybe the best quarterback room in the league. If you just look at it as a whole right now, the drop off to 1 to 2 to 3 maybe is not that bad in Montreal. And Caleb Evans, 10 of 15, 94 yards, that crazy touchdown. Cody Fajardo does his job, man. 7 of 8, 107 yards and a touchdown. You can't ask for much more than that. He had a perfect pass efficiency rating. And then Davis Alexander, 10 of 12, 89 yards. So the Alouette quarterbacks looked okay in their home preseason game. And last year, it was kind of an area of concern going into the season. You really want to go into the season with the shell-shocked Cody Fajardo coming out of Saskatchewan? How things change in a
watch.
Yeah, in a short 12 months. I love that that's on the Grey Cup ring, by the way.
Me too.
Is it FYJW? Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the most legendary, I think, pregame speeches we've seen in CFL Grey Cup history. Okay, we do have 4 more preseason games to go, and then they count. Yes, sir. Let's go. The CFL preseason will continue this weekend. We will be back next week with our East and West Division previews. We're going to put it out in audio form, the Super Duper Avengers style podcast. And finally, this Sunday, if I can get it done, we will have you got the Thor hammer. We will have the top 10 receivers in CFL history video. Man, this thing took a lot of work. I'm glad I'm on holidays when it comes out. So by the time people are done yelling at us, then I'll be back from holidays and we'll be good to go.
And I'll take it and I will respond to every one of you.
You can rate and review and subscribe to Two and Out in your favorite podcatcher. Subscribe and comment and do all the good things on YouTube as well. Thanks for listening again to the Two and Out CFL podcast.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.